Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw and I am enraptured to be joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Keith Jackson.
The
Keith, how's it
myth.
going?
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? Yeah, it's good, great. Enjoyed the Scottish Cup fourth round. Plenty of goals. Considerable dollop of drama. No big shocks. But you know what? It's just been a bit of a bruising weekend, isn't it, for Scottish football with events off the park. Denis Law first, then Jimmy Calderwood, and just a bit sad. It's a sad one, sore one.
Aside from being, just good men and good football men, like they were just two huge characters in Scottish football.
Yeah.
Larger than life. I was telling you off air my little anecdote about Denis Law.
Yeah.
I've just
share with the class, Daniel.
Well, a few years ago, I went down to Old Trafford for a Man U kit launch. It was when Adidas had taken over and they were making a big deal of it. And it was for like influencers, that horrible phrase.
What were you doing there? Who were you influencing?
Believe me, I was asking the same question. And it was people from Korea and China and America. Denis Law was there. And so
that
was
speed guy there.
Do you know he might have been? I wouldn't have even recognised him back then. But Denis Law was there, and so was Bastian Schweinsteiger, right? Everyone was queuing up to get a picture of Bastian Schweinsteiger. No one was next to Denis Law. And he overheard my accent and was like, "Are you a Ouija?" I look at that, look at my hair there, that's brutal. He said, are you a Ouija? And I went, aye. And he went, right, come on. And he took me on my own personal tour of the Man U training ground. We went to all the players' lockers and Wayne Rooney's car and the gym. And he was just the most lovely, generous, warm man. And I mentioned off here, but the best line was, I said, Denis, looking at all this stuff, you must be envious. Think what you'd have made in the modern game. And he honestly, it was like something out of a movie. He just smiled and went, listen, son, my Ballon d'Or keeps me warm at night. And I thought, do you know what? That's the best comeback you could ever come up with.
That'll do for me. He was a great guy. I've interviewed Denis on a couple of occasions. I remember once got me talk about the day that he went out on the golf course in the summer of 1966 in the afternoon that England were winning the World Cup. He couldn't bear to watch it, so he went out for a round of golf on his own, and he could hear the cheers back at the clubhouse and all that. Just couldn't bear. It's a great story, one that he's told often. But yeah, he just couldn't have been a more charming guy. Always helpful, just a great guy. Right. And you know what? Unfortunately, our generation, and I'm not clubbing you into my generation, so our generations. Never really. I didn't see Denis Law play live. I've seen plenty of clips and extraordinary stuff. But the guy's just the word legend gets thrown about, doesn't it? But Denis Law, genuine legend of the Scottish game, and of the British game. And I think some of the things that people have said over the weekend, he's the one guy that Pelé said. He was the one guy in the world that would have got into the Brazil 1970 squad. That wasn't born in Brazil, yeah. So, I mean, that's what you're dealing with. It's genuine greatness. For me, I grew up, Dalglish was the icon. Dalglish was, my favourite player. And I kind of, it's recency bias. I know he would still be my sort of number one. But you look at, Denis Law, they scored the same number of goals for Scotland. Denis Law did it in a fraction of the games. So, the guy's top drawer, and Jimmy Calderwood again, as you said, Daniel, just a lovely football guy. Yeah, always that big infectious smile. Just as I said, it's just sad days. But there we go.
Right.
Do you know what? They're the sort of guys that wouldn't want the world moping about it either. Get on with it and concentrate on the football.
I think that's
what they'd say.
I'm putting up some comments. They're just down at the bottom. I won't read them out, but they're there. Plenty of people commenting in for both Jimmy Calderwood and Denis Law. So as you say, quite a bruising weekend. But we've lost two great characters. As you say though, Keith, they'd want us to march on with the football.
Focus on the football. Yep,
absolutely.
They would.
The big game today was Rangers against Fraserburgh in the fourth round of the Scottish Cup.
Are we calling that a big game?
Well, the kind of, what would you call it? The headline game.
A game.
It was a game. Good point. It was a game. I made the mistake on Thursday of suggesting that perhaps Fraserburgh could cause a shock.
Yeah.
when they had the chance at 1-0, I thought, do you know what? But no, Rangers made very light work of them in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was a comfortable afternoon for Rangers. It was never going to be anything other than that. Fraserburgh did brilliantly to keep themselves in the game. You know, they were defending stoically, bodies everywhere, blocking things, charging things down, trying to deny Rangers space. You know, Cyril Dessers had a few sort of trademark moments, and then ends the game with a hat-trick and Rangers safely through into the last 16. Obviously, as the second half wore on, it became a bit physically an effort for Fraserburgh players to kind of continue to contain Rangers. Mm-hmm. I don't think 5-0 is an embarrassing result by any stretch for them. When you look at what Ayr United did yesterday, Broxburn, that's sore, that's painful, sort of 8-goal defeats. But go to Ibrox, they come away with their heads held high. They've had a brilliant day and they brought a great support as well. So, they'll make a few quid from it as well, which is brilliant for them. But yeah, it's move aside now and go into the last 16. I think what we got, we're going to have eight Premier League clubs, 7 Championship clubs, and Cove Rangers, I think, from League One.
I think you're right.
So it's going to be an interesting draw, and I'm really looking forward to the Dundee derby to finish off the 4th round. I think that's a brilliant fixture to end it all, and we'll know after that game. I think that's when the draw is for the next round. So there's still some football to be played.
I feel like the Dundee derby's always a cracker. It's always a really good game. I
enjoy it. There's a bit of a rawness to the Dundee derby, but see, this season the two sides have been excellent. So I think it's not just going to be a rip snort. I think there'll be a lot of good football in it. Just a good game to watch.
Aye, definitely. As you mentioned, the draw is tomorrow night after that game. Neither of us were actually at Ibrox today, Keith, but earlier on you caught up with Record Sports Andy Newport, who was at the game. And let's see.
Yeah, we'll see. I think what you're going to notice here and what will become evident as this show goes on, I'm doing all the heavy lifting in this relationship.
Listen,
I don't know what you're doing.
Listen,
talking about in your kitchen.
I'm the talent.
I'm in here doing the graft.
Listen,
cut to Andy. Andy, I can, even without seeing you, but I can see you, but I can hear the lawnmowers of Ibrox behind you.
Buzzing away.
Aye, quite a comfortable one, which is kind of what we expected. But I know how much you thoroughly enjoy watching Cyril Dessers doing Cyril Dessers things. So, a wee treat for you this afternoon.
Just you've called it. Cyril Dessers doing what he does. A guy who seems to make the simple look difficult, and then other times makes the difficult look simple. I mean, he misses an incredible sitter 6 minutes in, and then scores a third for his hat-trick from a quite improbable angle. So, try and explain that one. I certainly can't.
Andy got to wear the armband.
Yeah. But listen, there's his hat. His first ever Rangers hat-trick. So, I've just written my match report. It says Donald Trump themed to be given tomorrow's events in Washington, and I just wonder what the bold Donald would say about Cyril. I'm sure there'd be quite a nickname for him, but there you go.
Make Cyril Dessers great again. He's not exactly played his way into the lineup for Thursday night at Old Trafford, though, has he?
No, but listen, this is the conundrum with him, because he does get goals. I mean, this is, as much as he misses chances like he did, but yeah, he's still, I think, the club's top scorer this season. So, it's a conundrum. We've just been speaking to Philippe Clement there. He was asked about, are you still keen to have him stay around? He's lost his place in the team to Hamza Gamani in terms of before today. And Clement spoke about that at the press conference this week, saying he spoke with them, but listen, this is football. It's what competition's all about. Somebody's playing better than you have to accept that you're going to lose your place in the team. But we asked him today if he was, would they be reluctant to let him go, and he effectively said, listen, if they can get somebody else in, then they might be allowed to go. But until they can get somebody else in that's going to guarantee, at the very least, the levels of goals that Cyril Dessers, provide. For all the misses, he still does provide goals, and he scored some crucial goals at times this season. I'm thinking back to Daniel Caw away, the one he scored late on there. There's a few others as well. So this is a guy that has the Rangers support tearing the hairs out at time, but he is a goal scorer. As frustrating as he can be. So if he is going to move on this summer, there's obviously been chat. I think he spoke himself this week about wanting to be able to play regular football. Then they have to get somebody else in, and that's the trouble with this Rangers situation at the moment. They don't have much money to spend. Obviously, the one signing they've made so far is get paraded at half time today with Rafael Fernandez, a loanee from Leo, who's, I'm not even sure if he's kicked a senior ball at any stage in his career yet. So they're not going to be able to plucking guaranteed goal scorers, even if somebody as erratic as Cyril Dessers, isn't going to be easy for this board, not with the resources they have available.
Yeah, it was just a Dessers day, wasn't it, today? I mean, it's just, as you said, sometimes he goes through and you think, get a shot away, and he kind of takes an extra touch, he overruns it, he gets himself into an impossible angle, he'll have a shot, he'll sclaff it, he'll get blocked. And then other times he conjures... I mean, as you said, the finish at the end was borderline sublime, wasn't it? So, but do you know something? He's such a nice big fella, and see, it's even just the fact that he got to put the armband on for 10 minutes. I think it tells you a story of how he's thought about internally, if not externally.
I mean, I can only go in the small snippets of dealings we have with him, usually in press conferences or in mix zones, and this is a guy that, for all the stick he takes, and he's had some pretty, harsh moments. I mean, when you think about Aberdeen here in midweek, where there's not many, but there was a flutter of boos in there as he comes on. As he's not even kicked a ball yet, and there's some guys ready to boo him off the park already. But every time we speak to him, whether it be after a bad miss, whether it be after a bad defeat, he always fronts up. He comes in and he explains away, shakes you in the hand, shakes you by the hand, looks you in the eye. I mean, I wrote that in my match report. As bad as that miss was today, you never really get a sense that it affects him much. No. I mean, he's got this remarkable ironclad sort of character or mindset about him. And I suppose, given he's clearly got limitations to his game, I don't suppose he makes it this far without having that kind of mindset, because he's not the greatest footballer in the world, but I think it's that ability just to shrug it off and go again that allows him to sort of go again and keep looking for the chances, and eventually he gets them, and he gets himself his hat-trick today. So yeah, a likeable big guy, but whether listen, this is a club with high demands, and I think there are a lot of fans that would quite happily see the back of him. As much as he gets a hat-trick today and he scored a lot of goals in his time here, but I think a lot of people will feel he should have had a lot more. Yeah. And that's the frustration with him.
That's the problem. But then, just his luck, isn't it? He gets a hat-trick, he gets to wear the armband, but he still didn't even win the Man of the Match award from the sponsor. Or was it Enciala got it from the fans?
I think so. I gave it to him. He's record sportsman of the match, if that's any consolation to him. But
big man.
Exactly, and that's the one that counts as well, no, Keith. So, no, I mean, there was some promising signs. Listen, I think the first half today was, they had 80% possession. They had numerous chances. They've hit the woodwork twice in the first half, but you're still thinking.
It's a bit laboured still.
Well, they get in at half time, just grateful to be ahead after that incredible chance that Scott Barber had at 1-0. We've just been speaking to him and his manager there, and
how is he?
They knew. Listen, I don't think they came here with any great hopes of
I know, but he's got to take that chance.
Yeah, and listen, I think he was already saying himself that he was tired. This is a team that haven't played since December the 28th. They're part-time, they're training twice a week. It's a fantastic opportunity, and his manager certainly never had any criticism of him. He was just entirely proud of the way his players performed today, and rightly so, because they were terrific. As I say, that's a team for the 5th tier. No one gave them a hope in hell. I mean, like they lost 5-0 back in September to the Rangers B team. So the fact that they managed to keep the first team to the same score, it's credit to them. But yeah, this was it was a day out for them, isn't it? I mean, it was just an incredible opportunity, incredible experience. They brought something like 1,500,
great
1,800
support,
in that corner over behind me there. And, what a racket they made, and brilliant day out for them. And you see them now; they're all walking about downstairs. They've all got their jerseys. They're all getting their pictures taken. It's as much as it was a big defeat. Rangers did what they had to do, but Fraserburgh can hold their heads high. They were terrific, absolutely terrific.
Give me your thoughts, Andy, while I've got you on Enciala. I said the other night, what impresses me about this young boy is the way that he passes the ball. It's really crisp. His distribution's excellent. It's sharp. It's and he's also got a range. He's got diagonals as well.
Yeah, fizzed into. You see, the passes always seem to be ahead of the player, so they can run onto it. Listen, I saw him a few times in pre-season. I saw him when we went to Venlo and they played a bounce game. I think it was against Standard Liège, and it was okay in that day. Then they went to Birmingham later on in pre-season. And he looked very raw that night, and I thought, this is a guy that isn't going to be trouble in a team sheet anytime soon. And to be fair, Philippe Clement has spoken about that and said these guys got a lot to learn. He's got great raw attributes. They just need to be moulded. And listen, I think there's been a lot said about Rangers recruitment and the way that they've went about signings over the summer. But you can see, that they are starting to mould some of these guys into something. Agamani at the start of the season was nowhere near a starting 11. Now he's their best player, you would argue. Yefte came in again, another one that looked raw, but they've polished him up, and he's starting to show signs that he can be a real asset. And Ciala as well. I mean, again, listen, you've got to say, in terms of being tested, he had a couple of shaky moments at Dundee, but that's always to be expected. His first ever professional start at any level, first team football. Came through that. Obviously, St Johnstone bottom of the league, not going to be overly troubled. An Aberdeen team that the form's just vanished. Again, not overly troubled. And then Fraserburgh from the Highland League. Yeah, there's things to be encouraged about, but I think Clement's right. He wants him to keep his feet in the ground. I think he wants the supporters to just give him time and not rush to. Not rush to judgments in terms of when they're slaughtering players as they have done with some of these guys. Also, when they're playing well, let's not get too high with them, because we've yet to see his full potential, and he's yet to be properly tested. Listen, there's every chance he might have to start at Old Trafford on Thursday night. That'll be his biggest test yet, and we'll see how he copes with that one. But listen, there's things and signs to be encouraged with him, but as I say, there's bigger tests to come.
Andy Newport there. Let me throw a couple of comments at you, Keith, before we move on from Rangers. James Duffy, Dessers will now forever be known as the Hammer of Fraserburgh. QDL, well done to Big Dessers, captain and hat-trick, credit where it's due. And this one here from Rangers, easy, okay. I actually think we'll get a decent fee for Dessers. Someone will take a punt on him because his numbers are good. If we can get 3 million, we've got to take it. I would still go for Shankland, which is quite interesting. I mean, he is a weird player, Dessers, in the sense that, I mean, look, even today, as a microcosm of his Rangers career, misses that gilt-edged chance, somehow scores a hat-trick, and he's on 16 goals for the season.
Yeah. As Andy said there, he's back to Rangers' top scorer for the season. But yeah, I genuinely feel a bit sorry for him, because I genuinely think he's just a nice big fella. He always got a smile on his face. He's come through. I mean, he has had a lot of stick from people like myself, and certainly from large sections of the Rangers support. But he does keep on coming back for more, doesn't he? And he's just an incredibly frustrating striker, because, as Andy said himself there, he kind of makes the easy things look difficult.
Yeah.
And then he can somehow make the impossible seem fairly doable. Like he's finished there for his hat-trick goal today. But I think he's been part of the problems for Rangers and for Philippe Clement, because when he was getting that extended run, when he was the go-to man, moves were breaking down. Your centre forward sets the pace for how your team goes about its business. And Dessers, the ball was sort of bouncing off him. He doesn't link particularly well. He'll never threaten to get over somebody or get round somebody's shoulder and play on the back, get through, because he's not blessed with pace. His control can be questionable at times. But yeah, do you know what? It does weigh in. He does chip in with goals, but I think that anybody that's watched Rangers over that prolonged period of time will tell you he has scored a decent amount of goals, but he should have probably had double.
Yeah.
And that's Cyril Dessers in a nutshell. And it's why Rangers have improved with Egerman kind of taking over the number 9 responsibilities.
If you were in Philip Clement's shoes, Keith, this month, say you got an offer 2.5-3 million, would you sell him?
Again, as Andy was saying there, it is a problem for Rangers because, fine, I get it. Take the money and run, and I think a lot of people would be of that opinion. But if you don't have anybody to come in, what happens if Egerman breaks down? What happens if he gets an injury? You don't really then have a central striker. You've got Danilo, I guess, but Danilo, he's injured again, isn't he? And this is some sort of feels par for the course. So, look, I would take the money for Dessers if it's available, if it's a decent amount. Try and claw as much back as possible. Yes, I would be looking to do that, but I don't know if you can do that in January unless you've got somebody ready to come in that you believe will be able to contribute and is first team ready. I don't think you can have another one what it has done with Egerman and with Enciala, kind of young kids that are brought and need 3-4 months to get up to speed, to get ready to be involved in the first team. They can't have that in January. If they're going to sell Dessers, they need to have an option to bring in. I'm again, as is ever the case with Rangers financially, you wonder what sort of situation they're in order to do that. I think the simplest solution now with Dessers is to keep him probably until the summer, and then look to move things around at that point.
Yeah. Incidentally, Rangers is UK chiming in saying he can't play at Old Trafford. He's another one not in the Euro squad. I think that's in regards to Enciala. But I just wanted to mention that game on Thursday before we move on from Rangers, because, Man United beaten 3-1 at home against Brighton today.
Yeah.
Ruben Amorim's come out and said, we are the worst Man United team in Man United history. Look, if your Rangers, for all their seasons, been up and down, they've got nothing to fear.
Well, do you know what? Rangers on a Thursday night can be a curious thing, and occasionally quite a wonderful thing. They love this competition. You wonder if tactically Clement maybe finds it easier. I remember one manager told me, looking at Giovanni Van Bronckhorst at his time at Rangers, that from a manager's perspective, the night that Rangers beat Dortmund in Germany, this manager that I was speaking to said, look, that was almost perfection from a coach, because every move that Dortmund made, every substitute, every tweak, he counteracted it and he found a solution. And you look at Clement's been getting good results in Europe. You wonder if the mentality that's required to churn out win after win after win domestically, if you pardon the pun, it's almost foreign to these guys. In the Scottish scene, but the performances and results in Europa League continue to be really, really impressive. And for that reason, coupled with the fact that Man United are going through an absolute shocker at the minute, and more than that with this one, Man United's best, obviously they went to Liverpool and they got a result, which very few people saw coming. They went to Arsenal and knocked them out. That's fine. That's Man United playing against top level opposition that, the players are prepared to put the work in. There seems to be a real attitude problem at Man United, and Rangers have got to hope that it's that side that turn up on Thursday night. Because see if they do, if they take Rangers lightly, if they think all they need to do is turn up to get the points on the board, they'll be making a mistake. This Rangers side, yes, Clement's made mistakes in terms of Danilo, if he was fit, he'd be around the thing. Hadji's not going to feature, purely down to the manager's squad selection. But the Rangers have still got enough, and they've showed it in this campaign already with Bayrami, with Czerny, with Igaman, and as we said the other night, I think probably Diamondi will play further forward in midfield with Connor Barron and Raskin. There's a good solid shape to that side. There's plenty of energy around the middle of the park, and there's some creative sparks in the final third. Defensively, you would wonder how Rangers are going to do. But again, it does come back to what version of Man United are they going to come up against?
Yeah.
Because I think, if Man United go into this thinking that they're bigger than Rangers and that this should be an easy night for them, that's exactly the sort of performance or the sort of mistakes they've been making. Yes, they've raised it for big games against Liverpool and Arsenal, but that's when they're not expected to do anything. They're running hard, they're trying to cover gaps, they're not having the responsibility of taking the game to the opposition, and that's when they seem to have a problem. So, does that play into Rangers' hands? Well, you'd hope so, because if Rangers can get in and out of town with another point, then it'd be another terrific result for Scottish football. It's
going to be fascinating. I can't wait for that game. A few people in the chat telling us to bring up Celtic, Keith. Time is getting away from us.
More heavy lifting.
Celtic obviously get past Kilmarnock yesterday, 2-1 at Celtic Park. Earlier on, you're such a dedicated worker, Keith. Yep. You caught up with the one and only Michael Gannon, who was at the game. And shall we hear what he had to say?
Do I need to listen to him again?
I'm afraid so.
Okay. Mick, on a weekend full of Scottish Cup action, you had the Saturday night slot at Celtic Park. Actually, I know it was an unhelpful kick-off time in terms of getting the work done, but in terms of the match itself, Killie made a good contest of it, didn't he?
It was a decent game, aye. It was. I mean, listen, a wee bit like Dens Park during the week for Celtic, that I think they probably could have been out of sight after half an hour, 40 minutes. I mean, I thought Celtic for a really big portion of that first half played really well, because a lot of chances, missed 2 or 3 sitters, were so comfortable. And they lost a daft goal right on half time. I know there's a bit of controversy about it with the kind of coming off the arm from these. I must admit, I was surprised that it wasn't overturned and ruled out. I thought it looked like enough of a handball to rule it out, but it wasn't. It wasn't greatly defended by Celtic. But and then in the second half, Killie changed things up. They went man for man. They pressed Celtic. They kind of shook them out their comfort zone a wee bit. And Celtic were a wee bit. I'm not saying they were rattled, but they weren't. They were not comfortable. That's for sure.
You could feel the atmosphere turning a little bit, Mike. You know, you could feel that it was getting a bit tense.
I mean, I always felt that they had the quality there. I mean, Nicholas Kuhn, I thought was pretty impressive. Every time he got the ball, he was dangerous. Maida had a good game as well. Kyogo was dangerous without. He missed a big chance in the first half. So you always felt the quality was going to get there and eventually, but it didn't take until that second goal to kind of calm things down. And again, after that, Celtic should have scored another 2 or 3 as well. Big chances missed. So it was kind of like a kind of poor goal to lose by Celtic and not taking their chances made it a more awkward night than it could have been.
I tell you, that tie for me though, that was the worst possible tie for both managers, wasn't it? You know, for Kilmarnock to have to go to Celtic Park's a nightmare. Yeah. But also, you know, if there's one manager that puts up a fight to Brendan Rodgers every time, it's Derek McInnes, isn't it? So that was always going to be an awkward game.
Aye, it's one of the ones when the draw was made, both managers were thinking, "Oh no, that's no need." I thought Killie did a really good job. I think they hung on in that first half because listen, Celtic had 2 right big chances.
Kyogo's got to score the one that he's cleaned.
Kyogo's got to score, and I don't know how Hatate managed to put the ball over the bar from underneath the crossbar. I mean, it defied physics, that one.
He's unlucky because the ball actually skids just about a yard away as it's coming over. It does hop up a little bit, but he's still got to put it away.
It hits off him rather than he tries to score it. It's in the back of the net. So the big chances. I think the lesson, most Celtic fans were walking away last night thinking they can't really afford to play. They can't really afford to be that wasteful or that careless at the back on Wednesday night.
On Wednesday, and I think the fact that Brendan Rodgers went pretty strong with first 11 was a nod, I think, to Wednesday as well. A nod to the fact that Kilmarnock we're always going to give them an awkward afternoon, but also I think to Wednesday, because that's the all important one. This is potentially one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game of Celtic season so far. They're so comfortable domestically, but it's Europe is where it's been at for Brendan Rodgers since day one. He said it. I want to make us competitive. I want to do things in the Champions League that haven't been done before. And here he is at the first attempt at this new expanded competition, 90 minutes away from the playoffs.
Oh, it's absolutely massive, isn't it? This is a huge. I mean, and listen, by the way, if you said to Celtic before the draw was made back in August, whatever, that they've got a game against Young Boys of Bern, with maybe a point or a win to get themselves into the knockout stage, they're absolutely bit the hand off for that.
Yeah,
I mean, they could not be better placed, really, in the grand scheme of things. So it's right there for them. I mean, listen, Young Boys bottom of the Champions League without a point. Took a few doings. I mean, Atalanta gave them a thumping. Stuttgart thumped them. Aston Villa.
They've lost 22 goals.
Yeah, they've not looked great at all. They're toiling in Switzerland. I think they're ninth in the league. They come back from the winter break the weekend against Winterthur, you call them, and lost. And drew nothing. They're called. Drew nothing each. That's what I know. Drew nothing each. New manager, and the manager at the bag before Christmas. Which all of this means
Celtic couldn't have handpicked this any better.
No, which makes it very dangerous, I think, as well. It's because, I mean, listen, let's be honest, Celtic, they're going through a pretty rough period of games. I mean, they have 9 games in 27 days. It's been pretty grueling. And now they face the biggest test of the season. And I think so. I don't think they're out of form, but I think they're playing in kind of patches of form. I mean, they play 45 minutes here and there, and they look really slick and quick and good. And then there are wee periods when they're not so hot and they're a bit ragged at the back. A defence that was rock solid right up to Christmas has got a wee bit more fragile. Also, we heard Rodgers last week at Dundee saying they've gone a bit soft, and he was critical of Austin Trusty. Although he came back out with the big hug last night for him, saying he was immense and all that stuff, and all is well again.
Yeah. A bit late for that, Brendan. we all saw your thoughts.
Yeah, I thought he was. I think okay, it's time for a cuddle for the big man. He was all right. He played pretty well. But I think there's a few creeping concerns for fans going into this game. We don't know what Young Boys are going to bring.
Listen, Mike, I think you're causing alarm where no alarm is necessary. Celtic will walk this. Young Boys have absolutely stumped the competition out. They're the worst team out of the 32. This is it couldn't be any better for Celtic, and Celtic will go and get the job done. By the way, there is a bit of fortune.
How long have you covered Scottish teams in Europe, Keith? How many years? How many games have we watched in the last 25 years?
Listen, there's nothing in it for Young Boys. Young Boys just want this competition over, Mick. There's nothing in it for them.
You'd imagine they're using this game as a part of their kind of return to get to the match after the winter break, and a bit of pride in from this competition.
Too late for that.
But that gives them a bit of freedom, doesn't it? Which is the old cliche, makes it a bit dangerous.
No pressure, free hit type thing.
Yeah,
I'm not buying it, Mick.
No,
listen. See if you look at this Champions League table just now. You've got Young Boys are bottom in 32. I think is it Bratislava second bottom, and RB Leipzig third bottom. So Celtic have taken care of business against 2 of them at home at Celtic Park, and very handsomely. And here's a third shot. I mean, it does actually tell you that Lady Luck is really smiling on Celtic in this competition, the way these fixtures have fallen.
Yeah, the group they got was
superb.
Could not pick a better group, really.
Yeah,
I mean, it was. I mean, of all the teams they could get, I think they got probably the lowest ranked in each pot. So I mean, the one I watch with the group, but you have to take advantage.
Yeah, you have to do it.
Big opportunity. Listen, I'm not downplaying. I think they played well in Europe this year. I mean, the Leipzig performance I thought was terrific. Remember, Leipzig are third bottom just now, but when they came to Parkhead, they're looking for that first win.
Yeah, that game was alive. Yeah,
that game was a big match, and I thought they were terrific that night. The Bratislava, I know it's only Bratislava, but 5 goals in the Champions League is always impressive. Atalanta away, different side to Celtic. Right after Dortmund, I thought was a huge performance.
I thought that was their coming of age performance, that one.
Yeah. Even Bruges, I mean, I know that was kind of a bit of a kind of lower key one with the draw, but I think that was still an important result. That's a game that I think they might have lost in previous years.
Yeah,
those kind of tight games that not much in it, two decent teams going at it, and I think Celtic have lost those kind of games in Europe before, and they didn't. So yeah, I think they've done pretty well in Europe. Zagreb away, I think there's a chance missed. I think that was an opportunity missed that night.
Yeah, but a point in the road's always good.
It's always good, but I think Celtic and Zagreb gave Celtic so much respect that Celtic were a wee bit surprised at how negative they played, and I think Celtic found it difficult to have maybe not prepared for that kind of game.
Mike,
I think they played well in Europe in general. That's the point. Yeah.
Very quickly, Mick, before I let you go, Celtic transfer news. Where are we in the window just now?
Also, it was interesting the white boy from Spain, Raul Moro, but he managed to burst his collarbone.
I know.
So that's going to be take a hit as well. The chat of Louis Barry from Aston Villa. I think he might be looking for a loan deal rather than a permanent move. Whether that's a Celtic or not, wait and see. Could be. Depends on game time availability. And there's a few other bits and bobs. Also, the Kieran Tierney one's still there, isn't it?
You said that's for the summer, and I'm saying it's for January.
I think summer, but I think it'll also be after the European stuff because he also can't join the squad anyway. The European games, so I think nothing will move on that side until after they get these European games out of the way. So I think in general Celtic will sit tight until after these games because it depends where they are in Europe and what the budget is required to be, what they need for that part of their challenge. So I think it might be a holding pattern until the last few days of the window, to be honest with you.
Keith, let me throw a few comments at you that are Celtic based. Parkhead Boy, who's watching live on YouTube, is feeling very confident. Celtic will win comfortably on Wednesday with more space. He says, what a fantastic time to be a Celtic fan, 50 years old and loving it. However, he appears to be in a minority because a lot of the comments we've had are probably rather worried after yesterday's game. David Bryce, Celtic limped through to the next round with another woeful performance against Killie. The team are horrendous watch, have absolutely no style. I've never seen us as poor up front in all the years watching Celtic. And Alistair Johnston, he's dropped ASAP. If we perform like that against Young Boys on Wednesday, we will lose comfortably.
Wow.
Sean Dolan as well. The ongoing inane rhetoric of just a slip-up, a blip by Celtic is getting tired. These are not slip-ups and blips. It's poor, sloppy play, and it's getting systemic. Any high press against Celtic is a winning strategy. They can't deal with it and revert to amateurish passing and lazy play. So,
that's very glass half empty approach. That, I mean, look, I said it, and I repeat, and I think that Brendan Rodgers didn't particularly enjoy it. But I've said there's been a sort of a mini wobble halfway through this season. I think that Celtic got up to full speed, 100-mile-an-hour stuff round about the start of November, and they've just tapered off a little bit since then. They're still more than adequate enough to keep clocking up the results, but the performance level, I just don't think is it was blow your socks off stuff round about the November time when they scudded 6 past Aberdeen in the League Cup semi-final, when they beat RB Leipzig. A terrific performance. And I just feel that they've not matched that. I don't think that they're going to have to match that level to get a win on Wednesday night. And I think that the win will take them through. And I think you have to be mindful of the fact, as Michael was saying there, that this has been a really intense period of the season. And you can't always be at the top of your game, especially when the games are coming so thick and so fast and so frequently over the period of December and January. Mm-hmm. But Celtic, do they have enough about them to get the win that they need against Young Boys of Bern? I have absolutely no doubts about it. And I also feel that, you know, for Young Boys, this whole thing, this whole revamped tournament has been an absolute ordeal for them thus far. They can't wait to see the back of it. I think the stats say their domestic form is poor. They're sitting something like 9th in the Swiss League.
Yep.
Celtic will have more than enough in the tank. And by the way, do you know what? The sound of that Champions League music might just bring it back out of these players. It might just be the jolt that Celtic are needing right now. I think some people are being overcritical. I think Kilmarnock did give them a good game. I do get that, you know, there is something in that if you press Celtic, you might get a bit of joy. We've seen that. That's what Rangers did in the two recent Old Firm matches, and I think in the second half yesterday against Kilmarnock were employing similar sort of tactics. They weren't backing off Celtic. They were trying to pin them in their own half, and yes, there were mistakes made. But more often than not, Celtic find a way, and I really think that they should go into Wednesday's game confident, but hoping that this is the one that kind of sends them back over the edge again in terms of confidence levels and performance levels. Because you know what an achievement if Celtic can get this job done and get themselves booked into the playoff rounds for the Champions League. It's a superb job. And even though I pointed out that the draw has been brilliant, right? Because you're looking at the worst three teams out of the 32 in the expanded league. The worst three teams have all got two of them have already been to Celtic Park, and now Young Boys, it's their turn on Wednesday. So that's there's no doubt that that's been really helpful for Celtic. But you've still got to win the games. They've got 9 points on the board. 9 points is better than Manchester City, and it's better than Paris Saint-Germain. It's the same as Real Madrid.
Yeah.
So let's not underestimate the size of this achievement. And as I said, I'm fully expect to see Celtic get the job done on Wednesday.
Just before we move on from that, Keith, Roger Kennedy watching live on YouTube. Someone tell Keith football doesn't work that way. The teams who have beaten Young Boys are handy teams. Now, I'm only putting that up purely because I don't know if you remember back in November, Hearts played a team, I think they were called Unleaded Petrol or something. And you said there's such a thing as an easy game in Europe.
Yeah.
That's an easy game. Hearts would roll it, and they didn't.
Yeah. No, I because Hearts made an absolute backside of it. That was as easy a game as they could have got, and they blew it. And that's all down to Hearts, I'm afraid.
But you don't see Celtic doing the same?
No, I think this will be a comfortable win.
For what it's worth as well, I completely agree. I think Celtic. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, I think the Champions League music will kind of jolt a few into action. I think that's why the players want to beat Celtic, don't they? They don't come.
And it's why. And it's Brendan Rodgers on day one back in the job said that he was going to make Celtic competitive again on the big stage.
Yeah.
And I think there was a bit of rolling of eyes at that because, well, okay, Brendan, you tried that once before and it didn't work. Ange Postecoglou couldn't do it. So it was almost like this is the one card available for him to play, is that, Ange Postecoglou blew everybody away with his style of football and it was successful and it was complete domestic dominance. So what can you offer? What can you offer that Ange didn't? And I think that's why he went on, I want to make a difference. I want to make inroads into European competition. And you know what? As much as there might have been an element of eye rolling at the time when he said it, and yes, Celtic have got lucky with it, with how the fixtures have fallen in this campaign, but he's so close now to delivering and getting Celtic in the next phase of this new look Champions League. That is a real top achievement.
Yep.
And it's so close now. They can almost touch it.
Just before we finish, Keith, you mentioned them there, but Ange Postecoglou, we don't often talk about English
Big man.
football, but he is struggling now. The Tottenham boss, they lost 3-2 at Everton today. They were 3-0 down at one point. 15th in the league now. 8 points off relegation. I mean, I hate saying it because I think he is a brilliant manager, but I can't see it lasting much longer if it keeps going that way.
The thought occurred when Everton scored their third goal today that this could be a long afternoon for Big Ange in terms of the journey back down to London and conversations that might have to take place. I mean, again, Spurs do what they do. They come back, they rally, they score a couple of goals. They are the great entertainers, but these results can't continue. The one thing, and it is a serious mitigation for Ange Postecoglou, is the injuries. The injuries are horrendous.
Yeah, they are bad.
And they're getting worse. That he will use that as mitigation, and he said it, and I've listened to him, and he's saying, look, when these guys come back, this can't last forever, and he's right about all of that. But there is another aspect to it, which is Celtic had injury issues under Ange, and you wonder about the workload You wonder about there's a lot of muscle injuries there. There's a lot of guys that seem to break down in training, and you wonder is that symptomatic of being overtrained, where he's pushing so hard, whether it's in training or in the matches themselves. The ground they cover is just monumental. It's acres.
Just his style of play, the high octane.
Yeah,
we never stop.
But it comes with a high tariff, doesn't it, in terms of injuries?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, he can... And that's where he's on dangerous ground, that if this is as a result of the workload that he's putting into the legs of his players, well, it'll happen again next year, and it'll happen the season after that. So you can't really flag it up and say, yeah, but, you know, we're getting inundated here in the treatment room, because you can't use that as mitigation or as an excuse if it's actually as a direct consequence of how you're wanting your players to operate. And that would be troublesome for me if I was Ange Postecoglou, because I suspect that there is something in that. I suspect these Spurs players run harder, faster, longer distances than anybody else in the Premier League, and it comes at a cost physically.
What's your gut feeling? Do you think he'll last much longer down there?
I can't see Spurs panicking and pulling the trigger just yet, but he's going to have to start getting some results.
He's got that semi-final second leg against Liverpool, doesn't he? I think that could be crucial.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't hold out much hope for that one.
1-0 up.
Yeah, it's Liverpool at Anfield, Daniel.
I know.
Behave. Although, having said that, you know, Liverpool have got bigger fish to fry this season.
Aye.
You know, Liverpool are concentrating on the Premier League first and foremost, I think, then the Champions League as well, obviously. So this is one that you know, I don't think Arne Slot would gladly, you know, wipe any of the possible trophies off the kind of list of things to do this season. But if there's one that he could let slide more than the others, yeah, maybe it is the League Cup.
Yeah.
And and by the way, Big Ange did promise, didn't he? When he, you know, at the start of this season, I always win stuff, mate. My second season, and here he is. You know,
that was uncanny.
Cheers, mate.
I think that brings us to the end of Sunday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you so much for all the comments coming in as ever. We will be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Keith, thanks very much for all your hard work.
Yeah, we are doing 6 p.m. tomorrow, aren't we? Because times have been changing on the Mondays. But we're going back to just so everybody, because we've had some complaints about it. So you all know 6 p.m. tomorrow night. 6
p.m. We got a bit of stick last week for going at 4, so we're back to listen. We've listened to you guys.
Yeah,
we're back at 6.
Yeah, I've been doing all the heavy lifting and all the heavy listening.
Keith, you go and get yourself a lie down. You've earned it.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, and we'll hopefully have you with us tomorrow. Cheers.